Welcome to the CEN show, the voice of the world community. This show and also Conscious Corner on Mondays with Professor Amin Ra and historian Joe Hembrick, and the website communityeducationnetwork.com are platforms to aid the effort of self and collective improvement. So I want to show that website, folks, because we have some features on there that I think needs to be taken a look at. So let's check that out. Let me share the screen here. So here's the website, folks. And we have some perspective writings that may be interesting to folks, and it's some writings that'll make you think about some things. We have a legends page. Professor Amin Ra is on that page along with some other people. Community actions page, where we have one of our members information on there of a potential. Let me just show you. Let me show you. So it's the Black Table, and it's a pretty good program that can kind of help with the turning around of things for our nation and Black people. So it's by Dr. Terry Strong, one of our team members here. And let me just show you the form. Now, this is something that a lot of people can come on and start some conversations about, there's some of their ideas, and we can respond to it. And it's easy to sign up. You have a log on right here in the sign up page, and you just need basically an email address, and you could participate. But I want to encourage people to come on there and talk about their ideas and things that they're concerned about, so we can have some dialogue that way through the forum. Okay, so that's the website. So I'm your host, Raski Maskani, and I want to introduce the panel this evening. We have Brother Doctor, which is a regular, he's a part of the Fab Five. He's a regular panelist. Then we have Brother Mashinda, and then Professor Amin Ra is on another meeting, and he will come back and participate in this evening and what we're doing. So that's the panel, folks. Tonight's guest is Dr. Mike. On the website, I put Dr. B, and he is Dr. B, but the previous shows, we called him Dr. Mike. And we had another colleague of mine named Dr. B, and he was on before Dr. Mike. So we want to keep it that way. We're going to keep him at Dr. Mike. And the topic this evening is canceling Kanye, obedient outrage in the Black community. So I really want to know what obedient outrage is. So when Dr. Mike starts and everything and get going, I want him to kind of explain this title, Obedient Outrage in the Black Community, Canceling Kanye West. Okay, Dr. Mike is a regular guest of ours. He's been on at least 4 to 5 times. We're colleagues, and he's a teacher at our school, and he does an excellent job with the children, with the high school students. He's the activities director, and he put a lot of time and effort in providing these activities for the students, and he does a real good job with it. So I commend him on that. And also, he's a caring teacher, and he looks out for the students. All right, Brother Mike, how are you doing? Tell us some things about yourself, and then you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Rasaki Maskani. Did I pronounce that right? I was trying.
Yes, sir, you did.
Outstanding. So, hello to those on the call currently, and to those in your internet audience. I'm always appreciative to be on here because voices matter, and this is a forum for many voices to be heard and thoughts to be provoked and minds to be sharpened. It's iron sharpens iron on here. And so I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to engage. So you asked what canceling Kanye, obedient outrage. I'm gonna kind of just give some flavor to what that means. So in the last couple weeks, Kanye West has been in the news cycle very heavily, very heavily. And he's been canceled. Many of his corporate partners ended their relationships with him. Adidas, several banks told him they couldn't keep their money there. And the genesis of this was him making a Twitter comment about who runs Hollywood and entertainment industries. And his tweet indicated that people of the Jewish faith ran entertainment, and a little observed part of that said, but this is not an anti-Semitic comment, because as a African American, I am part of the historical Hebrews of the world, so I can't be anti-Semitic in my comments because I'm a Jew. Okay, so there was a lot of outrage, a lot of anger, of course, from the Jewish community, feeling that he had taken umbrage with them. But the most interesting outrage came from the Black community. Oh, Kanye's crazy. Oh my God, he's. I'm glad they canceled him. He's been spewing anti-Blackness forever, and we should have canceled him a long time ago. And so I wondered, how do we just jump on the bandwagon? And so I'm gonna give some context to that. In the December 19th Los Angeles Times, let's see, December 19th, 2008, December 19th, 2008, a contributor and opinion person named Joel Stein wrote, "Who runs Hollywood? Come on, like, you know the answer." And he said, "I've never been so upset by a poll in my life. Only 22% of Americans now believe the movie and television industries are pretty much run by Jews, down from 50% in 1964. So he's mad because not as many people think that. And he goes on to identify all the people from all the different institutions at that time who were leaders, and he identifies their background, their ethnic or religious background. And so Kanye merely said what most Jewish observers would say, that they run the entertainment industry. But if he said it, apparently there's a different flavor to it. Now, I'm not so worried about Jewish Americans and others feeling that nobody can speak on them. I'm more concerned about why it became such an issue on the internet with African Americans saying, yes, he should be canceled. And that's where the title obedient outrage comes in, because when narratives are put out by social engineers and those who shape our opinions, were very quick to fall in line. And the narrative was he's anti-Semitic and he's anti-Black. And it's almost fascinating for anybody to say that, because I just don't know how that happens. But there's been a lot of news. I mean, obviously Kanye was met with President Trump, who's been identified as anti-Black and so forth. So I was originally just going to talk about Kanye and the phenomena of us gang up on him. I mean, they use the C word against him, all kind of things. I mean, all over the social media. But then this week, we had the death of a rapper from the group The Migos, who's, was the #1 group recently, and still tops the charts. And people have been bemoaning all the rappers we've lost. Oh, we lost Pop Smoke. Oh, we lost PNB, whoever. Oh, we lost Nipsey. Oh, we lost Jam Master Jay. I mean, just constant statements about a variety of Black hip hop artists who have been murdered. And it's a disturbing trend, without a doubt. But the bigger part that baffled me was that immediately the internet was set ablaze with people saying, this has got to stop. This must stop. And I was like, but on that same night in Chicago, there was a single drive-by where 14 people aged 56 down to 3 years old were shot. And there was no recognition of 14 people getting shot in one event. In with other groups, that'd be considered a mass shooting. It'd be all over the news. It'd be front page for the next 2 to 3 days. That 14 people shot, in a school, a mall, or whatever. But for some reason, nobody cared. And this is part of a pattern of literally hundreds and hundreds of people being shot every single weekend in large population centers that have predominantly Black urban areas. And you never hear about that. But when we hear about what we're supposed to be upset about, it's a big outrage. It's a big dramatic issue for us. And so that really bothered me, that when the media tells us, oh, this is a tragedy, we all, and I say we all, but it's a very prevalent topic in our community, that entertainers died. Now, I think that the obedient outrage piece is exacerbated when you look at the bigger picture of what is detrimental and hurting the African American community. Now, I'm gonna stay with killing for a minute, because I had an interesting back and forth with a friend on social media about the idea that Black on Black crime is a racist talking point. And I said, how is it a racist talking point? It's the largest source of murder in the nation. Why shouldn't we be talking about it? Why shouldn't we be demanding accountability from not only the authorities to do something about crime and violence, but also to our own community to stop this situation with whatever means, whether it's healing our families, whether it's controlling our neighborhoods and patrolling the streets, whether it's demanding an end to the influx of music that glorifies murder, that glorifies drug use, that glorifies taking from others violently through home invasion, that glorifies hypersexuality and not caring about the outgrowth of that. Why are we suggesting that addressing this self-genocide is a right-wing racist talking point? It's our lives. And so I was very disturbed, but I saw that there are many agents who spread the idea that anytime we look inwardly and critique, we're supporting some kind of narrative from outside, when that's our job to self-critique. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we need to critique. We need to be very critique. But going away from that, and I'll wrap up right here, think of the idea of what's really killing us, what's really destroying our neighborhoods. Disease, heart attack, diabetes, hypertension, cancer. Why are we not railing against diets that lead to these diseases, where we eat tons of processed food, and seed oils and other things that guarantee us sickness, that we don't put a priority on accessing healthcare? Because we could say that somebody's preventing that, but if it's a priority, it's going to get done. I see young people every day ordering Uber Eats, wearing ironically, wearing $300 Yeezys, with $1,000 cell phones, getting new ones. I don't even have a new cell phone. And I just think, is our health, is our education a priority? Lack of education. Mr. Rusky Mascani is a ferocious advocate for education and for addressing the reasons why we're not thriving. But that's not a priority in our conversation. And so we'll look back, and I'm gonna end on Kanye because it's one of the most insidious talking points ever. I saw a video with Kanye where he talked about abortion being the largest. More babies are aborted in New York City than are born. So there's a higher rate of abortion than there are live births. And so when we look at our population, when we look at all these things that are killing us, one of the biggest killers is Black babies being terminated. But some of the most ferocious outrage is that, and I know there's a male versus female component here, but I'm looking at a genocide that is beyond the pale. And at 12, we've remained a steady 12% of the population. I don't know how that happens unless there's a control to prevent population growth. Zero population growth, where you stay the same for something, means that for equal number of live births, there's equal number of deaths. So we have zero population growth. And I think people would be very concerned with that. Why are we not growing in the population? You have to look at the reality. They say abortions have claimed more lives than there were Black people in the 1960s. So in 1960, the actual year, there have been more.
Took a class at Georgetown University. And Nikki Gill Adams gave birth to our newest Iron baby. Brooke Adams.
Oh yeah. When you think in the year 1960, since 74 with Roe v. Wade, that since that time there have been more abortions than there were Black people alive in 1960. And so you have to think, why is there so much outrage? So obedient outrage just means engineered attention towards a particular issue without necessarily entertaining the issue in a dialectic, like in a looking at both sides. And so I really just think that our narrative has been controlled and hijacked in our community. We are told not only what to be angry about, but what solutions to choose. We in many cases do not believe we have a choice in terms of those who we follow in terms of leader or the issues that we address. And so I just think that's part of a bigger thing. Last point, there was this guy named Edward Bernays in the 1920s. He was the American cousin of Sigmund Freud, who's, the most widely known psychologist in history. He's kind of like the archetype of what a psychologist is. Edward Bernays was an ad guy, and he wrote this book called Propaganda. And the basic thing, and there's a big quote, it says that our tastes are formed and our minds are molded by men we will never see. And it's not the people that are out front giving you the sales pitch. It's people behind analyzing and using, literally using algorithms and AI to shape us in terms of our attitudes. And so propaganda is the war in our society at all times. It's an information war. And to my belief, we've been conquered in that war by having our attitudes shaped, our minds molded, and our tastes formed, and what we care about determined by forces outside of us. And we are the foot soldiers of outrage in terms of agendas that do not necessarily serve our community. And the Kanye West drama is just a glaring example of how we can be told how to view one of our own. Kanye West, like him or hate him, has been on the scene for 20 years, and he's one of the most prolific entertainers that we've ever had. He's a billionaire, and he didn't get there by being crazy and stupid. He's brilliant, and in his words, he's free, because he said he can lose $400 million and not necessarily feel the compulsion to bend the knee and apologize to whoever. He did an apology to the Jewish people in general, but his point was made, and he didn't care about losing any of those contracts. So that's the conversation and points that I'm putting out, and I'm eager to see how the panel will respond to what I've presented. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very interesting, and You made some real good points, in my opinion. Okay, I'm gonna go to Sister Make It Happen first. Sister Make It Happen.
Hey, greetings, everyone. Hotep family. Peace.
Bonnie Ghani.
Thank you. It's great to see everyone and hear everyone. And so, yes, it was definitely a great discussion. I did get in a little late, but I was there enough to understand what the outrage is about, the obedient outrage in the Black community. And I actually feel that, yes, a lot of what's coming through the media, through the little boxes, are definitely forming how we behave and our perception of things, and such that we are thoroughly distracted from what's really happening right in our faces. And we're more focused on the boxes, what's coming out of the boxes. And as anyone who knows me know, it's all television to me. It's lying to your vision on every level. So there are some good things like this, what we're doing. We're trying to, counter that by bringing some positive, honest, truthful, insightful presence to these platforms, so as people are looking for things and researching things, perhaps they will come across something so fulfilling as this, to then open their mind to think, to try to unlock and kind of come out of the boxes that we've been put in, to really think and look and see what is really happening right outside your door, what is really happening on your block, what is really happening in our schools. How many of our parents can we get to actually come in and sit at the tables that are empty, that represent us, to actually be part of the decision, be part of the planning process. So we have a lot of work to do as educators, as lifelong learners, as community builders, and making sure that we try to remove the blinders and get people to use their brain, to get the fog out their brain, so that they can actually see what is happening around them and how it's impacting, and how to support and contribute progressive growth. So that's what I want to contribute. I think it was many great points, lots to add on to and to respond to. I think it's a great and a timely topic. Even when we think about what was going on with Will Smith at the beginning of the fall and Jada Pinkett, there was just so much that kind of directs what we focus on versus what we really need to be focusing on. So that's my contribution. And again, thank you so much for listening and taking my response.
Thank you. Okay, brother, Dr. Mike, you want to say something in response?
All true, and I think that the distraction piece is the key. The Will Smith controversy, he's quote unquote slapped Chris Rock, and then there was a whole 2 weeks of debate on that, and that has no real relevance. Those are millionaires playing parts, and they're all actors. They've all been in movies. So why are we sitting there watching that movie and caring about what celebrities even think or even do? He slapped Chris Rock, but guess what? That same night, children were being abused. People were starving. People were losing everything they had. Why do we care about 3 millionaires? Because Jada's the biggest one of all. She's running things in that encounter. And so I think distraction is key. What about our children? A lot of people don't realize, and I just have to add this, there are 800,000 kids a year go missing in the United States. Why aren't we paying attention to that? Every kid in the inner city knows about the white van. That's been around forever. Why is that still a thing? Why don't we have, I remember they talked about the guardian angels in New York, or hell, even if it's a local service organization that, looks for safety in the streets. And most of them children are either immigrants or poor kids. And we don't even care about what happens to our children. We just, today was Dia de los Muertos, and they put up one of the kids put a picture of their friend, a girl named Tiani, on the little altar the kids made to celebrate. And this is a girl who at 14, 15 years old ended up on Figueroa. Lost to the world after tragedy hit her family and COVID. And she ends up out there getting murdered. And if we hadn't spoke up, it would just been another statistic. And so you gotta think about, where's our attention? Why isn't our young and what they're taking in our top priority? So of course, it's our sister making it happen. I know how she rolls, so absolutely. Very important.
Thank you. Okay, brother doctor.
No, just taking it all in and agreeing with what he's saying. Make comment later.
All right, thanks. Brother Mashinda.
Yes. Well, I mean, thank you, brother, for making your commentary. It was a lot. You covered a lot of ground. But speaking on Kanye West, that's an intricate situation. I mean, I listened to him on a couple of podcasts, and I know he was on a popular podcast and making comments, about the Jews and that type of thing, and pointing out, his experience, at high level businessman and what's been happening with him. I call it old news, but it's not necessarily old news to a lot of people. And I don't say that like I know everything, because there's a lot I don't know. But what I understand, and from pretty much empirical evidence, and it's not a military secret that the Hollywood and the entertainment industry has have a lot of Jewish people involved in management and ownership. And you talk about the old record contracts and things like that, and you listen to Michael Jackson and Prince and different ones who talked about the different deals. They get shortchanged on deals, and you need to own your own masters and distribution and things like that. Master P is another one who's rapper, New Orleans, but businessman. And so these guys, been commenting on it. It's just getting some airtime. High profile people like Kanye West, is bringing it to the forefront. And of course, there's been others. I mean, I can talk about Minister Farrakhan, and I can name all kind of scholars, that have spoke on this, but they don't get any radio play or no mainstream TV. But Kanye West, who's a mainstream kind of guy, most people that are under 40, maybe, I'll just name an age, that or that's over 40, they don't know, about the internet. They didn't have access to internet and things like that. So information was coming through slowly, different forms of internet. Information, accessibility to different levels of information. So in other words, being in the information age, we're talking about these young children. It's no question that we'll say the internet, the platforms on the internet, has a direct impact on what they're doing. It's in competition with the teachings of the family, A lot of people were raised, like I say, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And so the competition with the internet, as the internet came around middle of the 90s, as we know it, for social, MySpace, and of course we turn into Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all those social media platforms. These children, these school-age children, are looking at their phones and they're communicating, and so they're creating wars among themselves based on stupidity, dissing each other, and creating cliques, and But anyway, the point I'm making is it has a deep effect on these children. So, I mean, I think parents, you need to watch what your children are doing. You need to be involved in your kids. As educators, we have to continue to, try to make things right, put positive things out there. But we have a lot of competition with the internet, because you mentioned Bernays, propaganda. He was what? His mother was Sigmund Freud's sister, and but he put out, he was a PR guy, and putting out a lot of propaganda, the master of deception. And so to this day, you have, like you said, there's no outcry when these 14 children are shot, 14 people are shot in Chicago, but you want to holler anti-Semitism, and the people that are in like Hollywood, they're putting, it goes back to like the Black exploitation movies in the 70s or late 60s, early 70s, where they were portraying us as, pimps and prostitutes and different things like that. So you can easily say, well, we don't have to subscribe to that. We don't have to go to the movies, but still it has an effect. But the internet has exponentially taken that game to another level. And so I'm watching it play out big time in terms of the effects on these children. I'm in a town with about 12,000 people. There's been 10 people murdered this year in a town of 12,000. That's huge, and it's related to social media, conversation, dissing, and creating these elements of like I say, of stupidity. So anyway, Kanye West made a comment about George Floyd, about the police didn't choke him down. He didn't have did he really have his knee on his neck? He was wearing a White Lives Matter shirt, trying to provoke thought and discussion or whatever. He said slavery was a choice. Those are the things what people are pissed off about. Not so much, he's making his assertions, and some people deem it ridiculous what he's saying, so I can understand the outcry against him. However, it doesn't discount the fact that what he's talking about in the industry, and it's kind of like, I almost said it's like the O.J. Simpson syndrome, where all of a sudden, you start saying the Black people need to pool their resources together, start trying to get the attention of the Black folks. You were standing on an island by yourself at one time, but now it's like, hey, it's time to do a revolution. Well, don't get me wrong, people do change. And he say he's a man of God, or trying to do what's right, or what have you. So, hey, if he wants to use his who he is and his force and his money, his background, his influence on trying to make change, I'm all for it, because it'll take somebody like him and others to help really make a difference, because he's in social media, he's on those platforms, and and he knows about that industry. And so I'm not going to discount him, but like I say, I appreciate some of the things that he said. But like I say, he doesn't run my life. He's just one person. But so anyway, you said a lot tonight. I just wanted to kind of go over and touch a few bases, but I'll continue to listen. Thank you for presenting tonight.
Brother Machinda and Brother Mike and Dr. Mike are both Aztecs, San Diego State. Right.
Homecoming this weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
So real quick, can I share back?
Excuse me?
Can I share something back?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think a powerful thing was said where this is not, what he said is not front page news. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, I thought of this quote that says, if you want to know who rules you, find out who you can't criticize. And there are certain groups that are protected class, you can't say anything about them, or there'll be a backlash. And so that's a very, very important thing. But that led me to think about Francis Cress Welsing talking about the idea that Black people are the only group that allows themselves to be denigrated and actually popularize it. So, you know, she said, you call your women dogs and you call yourself the N-word and defend it like it's your life's breath. And when you think of that idea that when you see the quickness with which that community comes up and says, you ain't saying nothing negative about our people. We control the narrative. When we want you to think of us as victims, you'll think that. When we don't want you to say nothing about us, you ain't saying nothing about us. And so we need to be more orientated towards protecting our own image, but we don't. You know, they're mourning Takeoff, but and God rest his soul, he was shot by his own people, really, and it's a tragedy for him and his family. But if you listen to the Migos music, it's 100% about conspicuous consumption. It's 100% about excessive drug use. Everything's about ecstasy, whatever, every kind of drug, and then random sex. And you know, I was thinking when he mentioned that Kanye West said something about George Floyd's case. A lot of people did not critically analyze George Floyd. We made him a hero and a figurehead, and he had 4 funerals with gold caskets and statues, and he was a violent home invasion robber. He put guns to women's pregnant bellies. And somehow, in our obedient outrage, we turned him into a martyr and a hero. George Floyd, God rest his soul, and all that, he was a fentanyl addict. And if we look right now what's going on, people are dying of fentanyl poisoning at record rates because of what's coming across the border. This dude was, like, somebody put out that he had fentanyl in his system from the autopsy, and people got mad. People got mad because you're questioning his way, how he died. He was saying, I can't breathe, when he was in the police car before they got him out and put him on the ground. Because fentanyl arrests your nervous system. And a lot of people die of asphyxiation from fentanyl poisoning. So we didn't look critically about what's going on. Yeah, that was a brutal, it was almost like a pornographic display of abuse that for 8 minutes, 46 seconds or whatever, 9 minutes and 11 seconds, however long, somebody just sat there with their knee on somebody's back. But I do have to say that we didn't look at the bigger picture before we took this dude and made him a cause celebre. And yeah, there's too much killing of Black men by police. Got it. But did fentanyl have something to do with it? And what should he have been raised up as a celebrity, and why was he raised up as a celebrity is my only questions. So I agree with Brother Machinda completely. Oh, by the way, the slavery was a choice comment. One thing that I'm really mystified about is the woman king. When the Dahomey, the kingdom of Dahomey, and Nzinga started it, and their whole origin was to protect the sovereignty of the Dahomey people, they became the inland importer of captives for these Europeans that were taking them out of Africa. They protected their national sovereignty. That was their whole national security policy by sacrificing everyone from the inland. So they made a choice about they wasn't going to get taken captive. And the Zinga made deals with the Vatican and with the Dutch to protect your kingdom. And it's geopolitics, and at the end of the day, it's what she did. But one could argue that they made a choice about not being enslaved, and they gave up someone else to do it. So I mean, I think there's layers, like Machinda was saying, that it's very complex. And yeah, he said it in a crude way, but my point would be to analyze it completely, because many top scholars in terms of slavery definitely say that certain groups made a choice. I mean, I think of Maroons. They said it ain't happening. And I know Brother Rod can lead us in the Black Studies aspect, but certain groups decided they weren't having that, and that they were uncontrollable. So I don't think that necessarily the
Their
conflict
programs or decreasing the
is
number of classrooms.
vitriolic as it might seem on
We
cursory
have
glance. Thank you for letting me interject.
Okay, thanks. Now I'm gonna get to Ra. I think Ra is Professor Ra, are you able to unmute?
Yeah.
each month we
Can you
receive
hear me?
survey feedback.
Yeah, I hear the
from our
background.
inspections,
Okay,
and
let me
actually
see if I can.
98%
Let me
of
see if
our
I can.
feedback
I
has
don't
been
know how to
positive.
close
On the
it down,
right
but let
hand
me
side, I put some examples of verbiage that some of our
give
providers
me a
have
minute.
shared. She
Okay,
was wonderful, respectful, and professional.
so let me just say this. I know that we've been told that Africans sold Africans, and Africans did many things to Africans, and I can't say that it's 100% true or 100% false, but propaganda is in history books. Everything that's taught to us, we don't necessarily know the facts of it. We only get bits and pieces of different people's different studies. Professor Rob, we can hear that real well. So the thing is what's really accurate when it comes to the historical records of certain things, especially when you're dealing with a system of such where they would like for us to think that many Africans sold Africans. So that's kind of touchy with me, and I'm not saying it didn't happen, because I can't pinpoint that. And if I did do extensive studies about Africans selling Africans in other, talking points, what will really be specifically true? So we only can speculate on the information that we get about us selling each other and things like that, and a lot of great points about Kanye and other prolific people. I never was attracted to Kanye West in any type of way as far as his music. I know that he's a popular person, but personally, I never gravitated towards him. So it's interesting to me because I heard him speak yesterday. Somebody sent me a video, and he seemed to be articulate, but then also he seemed to have some religious affiliation that I don't really subscribe to. So, you know, but interesting information. I would like to hear Professor Ra and what he has to say, but I know he has a.
I can come on quick briefly, but first of all, it's first of all, I appreciate what's been said, if I understand it correctly, and I want to thank Dr. V for his presentation. Of course, he said some things that in his presentation that I think that there are different views. When you have over millions of people that was not sold, that was trafficked by whites into Africa, regardless of how they put pressure on other Africans to be a collaborative. We don't take our eye off the white guy who think you could buy somebody and then treat them the way they treated us in the Holocaust of enslavement. I don't care, maybe some homie sold some, but they sure didn't sell all of those that were brought over here and put in the Holocaust of enslavement. And they didn't sell slaves. It was African human beings. I think whoever did it needs to be held accountable in history and in literature. But we know that the viciousness of the Holocaust of enslavement also involved what they call breeding farms. And and then that don't take away from the history of racism and segregation and lynchings and genocide that we've gone through, that we're constantly in a struggle for a reparations. This narrative of black, Southern black, is white folks always who has the media and has the writing skills, others that say that. Second, when it comes to Kanye, everybody know he got mental problems. To marry a woman with a plastic booty, you know you got mental problems. And think she's beautiful, I don't even make sense to even pay him attention. What is true, we can't punish or reward black people for their behaviors. The dominant society, and I don't separate Jewish people from the dominant white society, because the Jewish people that are in power, they're there because they're white. Francis Christopher Wilson said one of the reasons Hitler was had conflict with them people and called them Semites, because he's talking about they were semi-white. That's where that Anglo-Saxon come in. But anyway, they're not Kyrie Irving, but they don't talk about the platforms that carried Kanye's comments or Kyrie's. Because many of them are owned by the same people he was criticizing. When it comes to George Floyd, I watched the video a lot. I never saw him say he couldn't breathe before he got out the car. I videoed it and I'll look at it again. That doesn't justify. I don't care if he was on hot drugs or whatever. If you beat a pet bull and choke him out like that, they'd be on your case, the animal rights people. The reason black people were upset was not because they did it to George Floyd. They do it to Black people, and they were getting away with it. And you know, when you watch them lynch him with their knee, you understand, other officers watch. But if it wasn't for our struggle, they never would have been held accountable. So, you know, we can't disparage and say, well, he was a dope fiend, he was this, he's dealing with a white woman, this and that and this and that. You know, he was a human being. He belonged to a family. We all got issues in our families. Don't give nobody no right to choke them out and strangle them and lie and put 8 minutes. And that's what caused it. If it wasn't for the young sister who videoed it and put it out there, they never would have been held accountable. So, yeah, I think that we got to learn how to use the media for our advantage. But don't think that Kanye, Kyrie Irving, and any other African people that criticize white, they didn't go after Trump businesses and take his business. And he talking about there were some good white people, and they were talking about ain't no Jews gonna replace us. You know, these white folks fighting white folks. Why are the white folks mad at the whites that say they're Jewish? Because the white folks know they ain't Jews, they white, claiming to be Jewish, forming their own set. Like, you know, it's like Crips and Blood saying they ain't Black. You understand? We know they're Black people, and that's why we say, why are you killing each other? That's what white folks are saying about the Jewish people. What they doing to the Palestinians. It ain't about Judaism, it's inhumane, by inhumane people. Your presentation was excellent. Your major concepts are excellent, but I think that, you know, there are other views that people have that don't let the European be our teacher. Don't let our oppressor get us to collaborate or excuse him for all the oppression he has done. You know, Emmett Till, the Till movies out. All of the things that they've done to intimidate us, to fear. Now, like you said, ain't nobody gonna speak out because they can be ruined. So it's a struggle, it's a struggle. I can listen to your response, but I got to go back and hear this other thing. But I just want to say, Brother B, I appreciate your point of view, and I respect everything that you say. Asante Sana.
Thanks, Professor Rob. Okay, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, and always big respect to Brother Rod, because he's been doing it for a long time, and you know, errs on the side of struggle for liberation. So I'm always there for it. And there are many views, like in Black psychology, you got the Naim Akbar radical side, and you got the, you know, the cross side that's more traditional, yada yada. And so there are many views on stuff. And I take nothing away from George Floyd as a human being. I said that there needs to be more criticism. And interestingly, Kanye gave his family $2 million for his child. So I don't think he had anything of ill will towards him or in denial of his demise. My only point is that before we raise somebody up as a martyr, we need to really see that person from a variety of lenses. But that their humanity is first, and nobody deserves to be ritually killed in that way. And to your point, Brother Muscani, you know, it's well documented. It's at the Smithsonian Institution. That's the first thing you see is an exhibit on Nzinga. And so when you go down into the bottom of the Smithsonian, it starts at that piece. That's where I first learned about that thing. I'm not saying by any stretch, because I know it was the Dutch and others who propagated the slave trade at exponential levels. And once people got here, yeah, definitely. When we look at how chattel slavery turned people into commodities and bread and did all that, there's no question. I'm thinking though, like right now, slavery isn't over. Slavery did not end in 1865 or 1964 or 19 whatever. You still have debt and wage slaves. Slavery, matter of fact, broadened. The only reason you have 5 million people coming over the southern border is human trafficking and slavery. And so while I look at the historical slavery, we're in slavery right now. And one of the things that I think is happening is we have a choice to be free. We have a choice to, you know, the Naim Akbar talked about the chains of psychological slavery. And slavery is a choice. I know, Muscani, you have liberated yourself. We talked about liberating ourselves from the clutches of vices, from the clutches of certain type of thinking. And I think, in effect, while some felt it denied the suffering of hundreds of millions of people, I think it's also a message very clear right now. We can be freedom fighters right now. If we care about slavery as a human atrocity, why aren't we stopping or raising our voices to stop sexual exploitation and labor slavery that's going on right now, every day? And we're sitting with a blind eye to the fact that 5 million people have come across that border to be enslaved. What can you do in this country with as a undocumented person? I mean, you got some things you can do, but it's going to be a struggle. Right now, most of us are wage slaves or debt slaves. We live beyond our means. We don't have priorities that build wealth. So that slavery is a choice. What goes into our children's mouths and ears in terms of food and entertainment and eyes in terms of visual stuff, we have a choice, but we don't exercise it. So I think it's a point to ponder in terms of our current suffering. Do we have a choice, or are we beholden to this modern day slavery? And Brother Rod said it very clearly that sometimes it's not even a question of color, because we've had a president, we got 2 Supreme Court justices, we got a vice president, we got senators, we got a whole congressional black caucus. So you got black people driving Teslas everywhere. So I don't think we're that enslaved physically here, except for debt slavery and psychological slavery. And are we choosing to fight against that? Our kids come to school and don't even go to class, hang in the hallways. And the system allows it because why? Children who are doing bad are worth more money. You get more funding for failing grades. That's a unsecret secret. Failing schools get more dollars. Are we fighting against it with everything we got? Or why aren't parents up at school? Why? So there is a choice. And you know, he says provocative things, and my thing is, I'm not just going to like discount it at first blush. I'm gonna say what's at the core of this to take away for our struggle for liberation? Do we have a choice in the slavery we're in right now? Are we inextricably bound by people who rule over us, the 1%? So, and are we fighting to free others? You can go all over the place and see, or you don't even gotta leave your house. You go on OnlyFans and other sites and see women and young men being trafficked. So are we fighting the right fight? Or are we only outraged at certain things that were programmed to be outraged about? And that was the point. But once again, you know, I rock with Brother Rod 100% because he's a teacher and he brings it to the people to understand. So I all love and respect.
Appreciate it. Let's see if Brother Doctor have a comment or question before we exit this evening. Brother Doctor?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of go along with what Rob was saying. But it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like Brother Mike, you're bringing up some good points. But like Rob, I'm kind of took it back in when you talk about George Floyd and you bring up all this stuff in this background to justify him getting killed. And I understand, because I was the same way when the first incident happened years ago. Brother Machinda, the brother that the first incident jumped off years ago. I want to say his name was Brown with the hands up, the first incident. When the cops shot that guy, it was years ago. I think his name was Brown.
Michael Brown.
Yeah. And my first instinct was, because they showed the video like 30 minutes before, when he was kind of like choking the guy out the store and he took the swishers. I'm like, wait, he just did armed robbery. He should be shot. But then you think about, wait a minute, man, but this dude had no weapon, had his hands up. We didn't see the video, but yeah, it doesn't justify. I don't care how bad you are, man. It doesn't justify you getting killed like a dog. Yeah, I don't care who you are, man. Then you want to justify. We had two incidents. Someone might, help me out on these two incidents. It was a couple incidents where a couple of kids, one white, one black kid, fell into a gorilla cage or something. And they were all sympathy for the white kid that fell in the gorilla cage, but the black kid that fell in the gorilla cage, I think they ended up killing the gorilla. And they blamed everything on their kid's dad, who wasn't even there because he smoked marijuana, had a couple of marijuana charges. The dad wasn't even there. So they're justifying how bad the kid was. Then the next thing, you're talking about the school and the system, and you just said the kids are not coming there doing this and this and that, man. I'm going to use your George Floyd thing. You guys are teachers. You guys are the problem. You're the system. You're there. And you're supporting the system. You're not changing anything because the kids are doing this every day. So you're not changing anything. You're making it worse. If it was that bad and you blame the system, you would quit and go to the news and fight against this system. Tomorrow, you would be on the news. You would go, you have a press conference. None of these kids come to class. They're not doing nothing, but none of you guys are going to do nothing. Just like Ross said, hey, you guys getting paid, man, by somebody. You're not going to mess that up. You don't care. You want that money. You want that retirement. And I can't believe you're going to sit here and talk about the system and you're part of it and you're not doing nothing about it. You're not going in the media. You're not saying nothing. You're part of the system. It's never going to change. Just like my brother Mutabaruka, like when he was talking about the People's Court, you got Senator stay the same and Senator change my mind. It's going to never change, man, because we talk about it, but, they control us with that money and that retirement, man. Can't do nothing, man. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I'll say this. I don't think it serves any purpose to not fight for change within the system. I could quit tomorrow, go blow it up, quote unquote, the news. No, not guaranteeing it gets any coverage. And then there I am outside the system where my voice could be neutralized. I believe in fighting from within, and I've been fighting for nearly 30 years, and I keep on going in that direction. But we work every day, and I can tell you, Mr. Moore goes hard in the paint, fighting the power. I mean, Mr. Mascani.
Yeah, but see, you've been fighting for 30 years, and you just said these dudes are still not coming to class. So you've been doing something for 30 years. So you haven't, in 30 years, you haven't thought about a different way to do something differently?
Well, let me just say this.
I mean, that's like, I don't know, man, because I don't know
Brother
the answer.
Doctor,
Yeah.
Brother Doctor, let me say this. When we say kids don't go to, some kids don't go to class, it's a small percentage. And Dr. Mike is correct in what he's saying, and I see the work that he does with the children. We have people on the inside that's fighting for the children that may have a chance. So it's a lot of things is how you perceive it. We could take something really small and blow it up, and make it bigger than what it really is. And like Professor Ross said, we have successes. We do have, okay, let me just give you one story. And I tell my students about this particular student, and this was maybe 3 years ago. This student was failing every test that he took. And at some point, he made a decision, and he first of all, he got upset because he was tired of failing. And because we did offer him some help, this kid turned around immediately within a few weeks and started passing tests, start studying and all that. You have success stories. And then, it just, you can't, like Rod talked about the struggle. You can't, just because things are not the way we want them, that don't mean we stop fighting. And I've been working with Dr. Baisley since 2001. And I see the work he does, and it helps. If we didn't have a Dr. Baisley, I think we would be at a loss. So we have people that's fighting and making things happen. Like Sister Make It Happen, she's there with us also. She's putting in work for these kids. And so you do what you can with what you have. And we have some influence, and we just do our best. And that's what a lot of people need to do. But and I was going to say this earlier, we have a lot of sheep-like people, more sheep-like than leaders. So we got to have somebody around to lead kids that do want to make they want to make it from where they are to another place. So it's all a struggle, and you just stay in the fight. That's all.
Yeah, and I see,
until you can't fight no more.
Right, and I can live with that. What you just said. Hey, stuff is going on. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're trying to make changes. Something that's more of a positive. But you can't kind of like talk, oh, the system this, system that. You're part of it. you can come on and say, hey, yeah, man, we're making changes here. Like Ron, I always say, come on, anything positive, man, you hear on the news about the blacks, but you can't start looking at pointing out some negative stuff like the George Floyd. Oh, well, he had fentanyl in the system, and he couldn't breathe already. So, he's gonna die anyway. So it didn't matter if the cop was gonna think like he's gonna die anyway. I mean, come on, man. Like the system
No,
here, man, it's kind of like
I don't think that was
with the
said,
school
but
thing. That was said, but
That was not said, but
it's talking about
that was not
that's
said. So
Let-
I'll just make sure, let me be clear. One of the point I made was that he had 11 grams of this stuff in him, micrograms. The biggest symptom of it is some labor breathing or no breathing. All I said was we need to look at the thing more critically in terms of the case. The case has already been decided in court. He was murdered. I'm not there's no arguing. However, I'm saying just we need to, before we jump to conclusions, look at the bigger picture. Things might change with this thing. Who knows? But I'm not justifying nobody's murder. And I didn't say just go and kill him anyways because he's on fentanyl. I just said that was a contributing factor that nobody even knows about. And I'll post the official autopsy results so you can see it for yourself. But in no way did I say just go on and kill him anyways. So let's be clear about that.
well, you know what? Let's just move on because we got Brother Hembrick showed up, and we want to see what Brother Hembrick have to contribute to what the topic was this evening, which was the obedient. Repeat that, Dr. Mike. Obedient outrage in the Black community.
It was canceling Kanye. People calling for Kanye to be canceled just because they were told to say it by the media. That's all.
Okay, go ahead, Brother Hembrick.
Evening, everyone. Sorry, just getting on. I don't want nobody and give me no call. I've been up dealing with my sick dogs all night long. Didn't go to bed till 6 this morning. Kind of threw my whole thing off. She's in kind of like a hospice mode, if you will. Anyway, Brother Mike, what's up? We worked together a long time. And as far as this Negro Kanye goes, I don't have much to say about him at all. He needs some mental health services. I know he's wealthy and all that. I don't see how somebody that with a mentality like him can reach there, but that's another generation other than mine. What I did get the opportunity to hone in on was the school system and whatnot, and listening to the doctor, brother doctor. I caught the end of what he was saying. But you can make change. I made change for 39 years. Brother Mike and Brother Roscani was right there along with me and whatnot. A lot of people used to wonder how and why, how I was doing what I was doing outside the structure of the state curriculum, but I did it anyway. Trying to wake up kids to the truth. I kind of mad at myself for coming out the classroom being an administrator, but that way I made it safe for more students to go to school, as it was kind of dangerous back during that time. So that's the reason I did it. I kind of can kick myself in the butt. I could have turned out a lot more soldiers than I did. And hopefully they're carrying on the fight, at least away from the schoolhouse, just knowing the truth and what to do about it in in the confines of the warlike situation that we're in, behind enemy lines, like I say all the time. You know, but you got to keep fighting, waking up who you can. And, you know, when you're in that situation in education, well, school, because I ain't doing no education, but anyway, at the schoolhouse, you never know who you're affecting. Sometimes you find out years later. I've had former students and players come up to me years later saying they wish they had listened. Some did listen, but never told me that they did, and are out there carrying on the fight. So this system of schools not conducive to our kids at all. You got to show them within the system how they can get something out of it, and, you know, keep it pushing. Like I say, as far as education, that's something you got to do for yourself, because they're not teaching the truth through K through PhD in this country. So anyway, sorry I missed out on what was said. But as far as the topic on the brother, he's finding out what the hidden hand can do. I guess since he thought that he said at Trump's knee that, you know, he was untouchable, he's gonna find out he's not. Because those are the folks that are running the show. You follow what I'm saying? And the system of education, that's another thing they run. I used to tell my students, you know, they got you crying over 6 million in the Holocaust, you know, when you lost over 100 million. And the so-called Latinos that are actually Native Americans lost about 50 million. They got you, you know, crying over the 6, and you don't even know about the own with your own people. And I used to tell them Spanish is not your native tongue. You don't even know what Spain is. But anyway, I'm not gonna get into a long teaching thing, and I really miss waking up the walking dead, which I call it. I think that's my calling all while I was in education, is to wake up the walking dead, which we are as a people. So anyway, I like to hear some more of the commentary about the rapper brother, because I missed all of that. But anyway, appreciating the group. You know, everybody be blessed, and you know, do what you can. That's all we can do. So anybody like to, Brother Mike, you like to comment on the rapper brother, because I missed all of that. All right, peace.
Thanks, Brother Hembrick, as usual, dropping the truth. You know, what we say, people slurp up the lies like melted ice cream through a dirty straw. Something.
Sucking up fried ice cream with a dirty straw.
Right. Well, I just say this. I think, well, one thing, we were talking about the idea that we elevate certain people to status in society. And early on, I was sharing how people have been across social media are very aggrieved that X amount of hip hop persons have been killed, when they don't care if people are being slaughtered in the streets on a weekly basis. You know, Chicago has 60 people shot every weekend, and nobody cares at all. There's no outcry. But let a rapper who's a millionaire, who gets killed in a dice game, get killed, and everybody loses their mind. And so I think that was just part and parcel to say that we kind of look to certain things. You know, I always chuckle when somebody mentions Kanye dealing with Trump, because you've got probably the most prolific racist that's ever been in office in the White House right now, and we, for some reason, can't find anything wrong with with the current occupant of the White House. We support him unequivocally. And I just can't understand the dichotomy. I think that goes to how successfully they painted Trump with a brush to make him the worst enemy Black people ever had. You know, when at the end of the day, just prior to him announcing, hell, Black people loved, you couldn't find nobody to say nothing. Black people was watching The Apprentice like it was going out of style for whatever reason. They loved Donald Trump. Barack Obama wrote literally that Donald Trump was the American dream. And so, you know, it just tickles me. I mean, people could, you know, I don't think there's really been anybody that was too friendly to African Americans, save for maybe JFK, and that's why they have JFK and Martin Luther King on church fans, and Jesus, because for some reason JFK resonated with the community. But nonetheless, I think that's propaganda, that we don't have any outrage about Biden, who has spoken insane statements about Black people, but we just can't see it. And so yeah, as usual, I rock with everything Embrick's talking about, because no matter what, it's going to have the foundation of truth, and he's always been about that, and liberation. So thank you.
All right. Professor Rob wanted to chime in.
I appreciate what's been said. If I understand correctly, there are many groups struggling against every issue that we brought up. We've made some major achievements in that struggle. For years, we've been fighting reparations, and now you have legislation in California. You have a movement in the federal government. You had some people getting paid. Georgetown giving money, other churches giving money, in the little town in Illinois, giving people money to buy homes in the form of that. Second, when it comes down to people like Kanye, people who listen to him, I've never listened to him. I never watched. But I know about him because he's a media figure. In other words, he on television, the news talk about him, you know, the challenges he's going through with his wife and all of that. So you get a chance to know him. Whenever you have your television on or your computer on and you dealing with the internet, whoever you looking at is in your house. You understand? And therefore they're in your mind. Dr. Naim Akbar, as you mentioned, said at one time the kids were electronically kidnapped by the television. Now it's cyberspace. So yeah, but you have to understand now some people look at it as a good thing, because good things come out of it. But some people look at the negative thing. Now when it comes down to Kanye and him criticizing a segment of the white community that claims their religion, that he's talking about them religiously, he ain't the first to do that. But they try to make him a poster boy and intimidate everyone else, as you said, from criticizing them and taking the light off of what they're doing, what people are doing to the Palestinians, the role they had in South Africa, the role they had in other assassinations of people in Iran and Kuwait, how they bombed Lebanon to pieces and destroyed it, the Israelis. And Israel, being an Israeli is not synonymous with being a Jew, because Zionism has nothing to do with Judaism. You understand? And Judaism is part of the three major religions. First there was Judaism, then the Christianity, then Islam. That's why Dr. Ben talked about the three major West religions. Black people caught up in them. Now, Martin Luther King took the Christianity and used it as a struggle. Farrakhan took Islam and used it as a struggle for and for Black people. And there are other people. They have Black Israelis, Israelites. Brother Yosef Ben Israel, who took a delegation to Israel of Black people to reclaim being the original Jew from the as a Black people. He just made this transition last year, but I met him in DC, and he was into nutrition and all of that. But the point is that we're struggling. If it wasn't for Black people voting, you wouldn't have Warnock and the Jewish white boy senators out of Georgia. You wouldn't have Kamala Harris as president. Biden just said, I wouldn't be president if it wasn't for Black people. So Black people do vote, and they do get out there. People struggle for us to vote. Now, if you don't want to vote, that's fine. But that don't mean people didn't struggle for you to vote. You're here, you're in this country. You got to fight for social space. Now, Malcolm even said, it's the ballot of the bullet. No one could be more conscious than Malcolm, one of the most quoted leaders of them all. Even the Black Panthers, 1968, Eldridge Cleaver ran for president under the Freedom Party. Angela Davis ran for president under the Peace and Freedom Party. Although those were communist parties, but they ran for president. Dick Gregory ran in 1968 for president of the United States. Jesse Jackson in 84. It's a struggle. Now they struggle with what they have and what they think. We're diverse people. We diverse. And then we have unity without uniformity, unity with diversity. I respect that. I'm not going to criticize nobody. But when it comes to George Floyd, and when it comes to that, we didn't care what the situation was. The man stood on his neck, and if it wasn't for a little Black girl, teenager, that videoed it, he would have got away with it. Michael Brown had his hands up and got shot. And then the boy, I think the boy in New York, selling cigarettes. So Floyd represented a history of Black murderers and him going way back to us on the continent and even on the travel. In our psyche, and the thing with educating young people, everybody knows the primary education unit is the home. Public school kids come to get instruction. They got to do homework. If there ain't nobody there to discipline them at home, it's going to be rough, except for the kids that want to learn. And there's a lot of them. I like to try to teach the ones that don't want to learn. And if we look in our background, many of us, we have brothers, sisters, and sometimes ourselves, lived contradiction lives to where we are today. We're different people. To say there's no change and no progress, you wouldn't even be where you are. Black people with degrees had to work in the post office if it wasn't for the rebellion of 1965. Now these people, and as far as Trump, all this stuff about Trump, Black people love Trump. No, Black celebrities wrote in most, you think the kids in the projects knew who Trump is? They don't even know their city councilman here. No, not all Black people celebrated Trump. And no, I never watched The Apprentice in my life. I can't think any of my kids ever watched it. If a basketball game on, football game on the news, that's what you watch. You understand? Well, white folks watching and some Negroes watching, but that's on them. I never watched Oprah. I never watched, I won't watch her for. You understand? She the one that promoted Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil. You understand? All of them racist. And coming out. And she ain't apologized for that, but that's her. That's not her conscience. What's done in the dark will come to the light. We are good people. We are struggling people. We have a lot to appreciate and achieve. What Deion Sanders is doing to Jackson State and bringing it to a national forum, raising money for their program. And got the pros coming down there. Joe knows that. Brother Hendrick knows that back in the 60s, Grambling had more people drafted than any college, year after year. You understand? In football, when it was segregated. You understand? And it's still segregated to a certain degree. So I'm just saying, what you're saying is correct. We need to do more research. We need to be more conscious. And we need to have strategy. I'm so grateful for Rashiki for putting this platform together so that we can learn how different people think. I'm not critical of nothing that's been said tonight. I just know that I'll be out there with a number of organizations that's doing good work. When a sister Make It Happen say she's with the Sisters for Wellness, they're trying to help people get well and get healthy. You understand? I mean, they're not going to be on television, but they know their achievement. You know, oh man, there's so much beautiful things going on in Black people. Taoist philosophy, as I conclude, is the best of African thought and practice, an ongoing synthesis with constant exchange with the world. The key crisis in Black life is a culture crisis, a crisis of views and values. But, as the good doctors say, can't we all get along? You understand, without diversity, doc sometimes, you know, he be saying some stuff, I say, wow. You understand? But I love him as my brother anyway, because he be right. And sometimes he be right. You understand? I'm for criticizing Black people who ain't doing nothing, but I'm for praising the ones that's doing something. That's all. I didn't mean to go off, but it's a beautiful conversation.
Hey, this is why we do what we do. Everybody get to say what they say. So now, I think Sister Make It Happen and Brother Machinda, do y'all want some last words? Or are you good?
Good.
And
Sister
I always have something to say. So thank you guys. It's just amazing. You guys are a blessing. This is a great forum. And my brother, you know, I love you much for all that you've got us going, got our blood boiling, and got us thinking and our minds working, and got that everything going. Thank you so much. And good night. See y'all next one.
All right, thanks for coming. Yeah, this has been good. It's been good. So I appreciate it, Dr. Mike. Keep doing what you do. Appreciate it, Brother Doctor. Keep doing
You forgot
what
Brother Machinda.
Brother Machinda,
Yo,
former Aztec. Aztec. What about Brother Machinda said he was good? Dr. Mike?
Oh, okay, solid, okay.
All right.
I'm good. Thank you for presenting tonight, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Sister Make It Happen, Brother Machinda, Brother Hembrick, Brother Doctor, Professor Rob, Brother Mike.
Let me just say something real quick. Hey, thanks,
go
Brother
ahead.
Mike. Like I said, when Brother Mike, Brother Thomas, and Peter, when Ross Key say you guys on, man, I come on, man, because I love what you guys say. You make me think about stuff. And you guys always bring some good topics, man. Good topics. And I hope you come back on again, Brother Mike, and bring something else up, man.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely gonna get him back on. Long as he agree to come on, he's gonna be back on. And this is what we do, brother Doctor and Dr. Mike. This is what we do.
Oh no,
Okay, folks. Go ahead.
no, this is a great community right here, and I appreciate the chance to come in and you know, do what we do.
We appreciate you. So, folks, we're gonna see Professor Rob. We got anybody for Monday?
It'll either be Black Lives Matter or Crenshaw Subway. I'll let you know in the morning.
Okay,
Crenshaw
beautiful.
dealing with gentrification. What is it?
Gentrification.
Yeah, gentrification. All right.
All right, thanks. All right, so on Wednesday of next week, we have Aisha Blanchard Young, an organizer for racial justice, and she works for the California Teachers Association. And I'll be interviewing her on Wednesday. So that should be a good one. All right, folks. It's been real. Been real. All right, so each one teach one in Conscious Corner. Everybody have a good evening.
Rashaki, you on mute.
Gotta catch up with Baisley. Was I on mute the whole time?
No, just after you said each one teach one in Conscious Corner, then
Oh, you know what? I messed up. I was supposed to stop the recording. Okay, wasn't nothing bad said, so I'm gonna just leave it in there. So each one teach one Conscious Corner. Let me stop the recording.